I'm just a florist. Got a small shop. Nothing special. Silly way to spend your life, I guess, fussing with a bunch of flowers. Sometimes I wish I was good at something else. I don't know, a doctor or a missionary, someone who really helps people. But I do love flowers. Always had a knack for it. So I do my best to make them beautiful for people. But I know flowers can't change the world. I know I don't make much of a difference. I'm just a florist. I'm just a florist.
Just a florist. Many of us are used to saying or used to hearing similar words about our professions. We say things like, I'm just a florist, or I'm just a receptionist, just a care provider. Oh, I'm just a stay-at-home mom. We say these things as if our work isn't good enough to stand on its own. And we use this minimizing language that strips away the importance of our work. And that isn't good. The work that we do should be able to stand on its own, and it doesn't matter what the work is. So, as some of you may know, I am an avid Googler. I typically mention something that I Google within one of my teachings, and today is going to be no different. So, I headed to Google as I was preparing for this teaching, and I typed in the words, work is just, and I wanted to see what would auto-populate within my search engine. And here are some of the things that started to auto-populate. Work is just a paycheck. Work is just a means to an end. Work is just not my responsibility. And work is just a part of life. So, I saw what Google had, but what about you? How would you answer that statement or finish that statement? Work is just ... What would you come up with? So many of the things that I saw listed had a negative lean to it. I didn't come across anything that said, work is just rainbows and butterflies, or work is just really great and so life-giving. That's not what I came across. And I think it's because when people often think about work, they typically associate it with some of the harder things in life. Like, work is pretty grueling. It can be hard. It can be sometimes boring. It can be mundane. Sometimes it can just be time-bound, where I feel like I have to work 40 hours a week in order to be productive. Webster defines work as this. It's an activity in which one exerts strength or faculties to do or to perform something. So, work is exertion. And because of that, we don't typically hear the fun associated words. Work isn't just joy and cheer. That's not what you're going to see. But work is also not just our 8-to-5 jobs and our professions. Work is a lot more than that. And that's what we've been unpacking for the past couple of weeks. Work encompasses an array of activities. Well, let's see. There's recreational work, going on a hike. There's mental work, trying to figure out this problem. There's relational work. Oh my goodness, going through conflict. There's maintenance work. There's homework. There's art work. There's working out. My goodness, the list goes on. There is a lot of work, and we spend so much of our breath and life working, exerting some sort of energy into some form of work. So when I talk about work today, I'm not just talking about your job that occupies your time from 8 to 5 or whatever hours you work. I'm talking about work in general, the overarching umbrella, the big work. And work takes on so many different forms. And that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the good of work. And oftentimes we see a lot of the bad associated with it. But today we're going to take some time to focus on the good. Because at the core of work, I believe that there is something really good and something that needs to be explored. Because God created us in this body, in our bodies, for the purpose of our bodies to expand and for our bodies to till the ground and to work with our hands and for our bodies to move. He created us with minds to be used and to be stretched. And we do that through work. But unfortunately, we live in a time where we have seen work distorted. Work has been twisted and contorted to build power. We've seen how work serves to just promote the elite. We've seen how work promotes slavery. We've seen how work perpetuates low wages and abusive work environments. We have seen how work is abused throughout history and even in our modern times. And it is right and it is fair to call out these injustices as we see it, because the truth is we have distorted it. Humans have distorted it, and work is not being presented and displayed as it was intended to be. And we have to fight to see the good of work. And we as Christians, I think, have to look at the balance. That yes, there are some unfavorable things about work, but yes, there are some favorable things. Yes, there are some bad things about work, but there are some good things. Have you ever noticed how when you focus on something really hard, then that's what you constantly see all of the time? Like that's what you're constantly drawn towards? Well, when you think about work, and if all you're thinking of are the bad things that come up about work, is work sucks, I hate my job, I hate this work, and blah, 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 there may be some validity to that. But let's take some time to focus on also the good that's produced and that comes from work. So I think that sometimes the goodness of work is a little bit hidden, so we have to kind of dig a little bit to see it and to uncover it. So that's what I'm going to focus on today, the goodness of work. And I am not offering you a cover just to throw over your eyes and pretend like some things don't exist, but I'm just offering a different perspective and outlook and an alternative story when we're thinking about the narrative of work. So, to begin, I just want you to picture something with me. Get comfortable, get comfy, cozy, and I want you to picture with me the new heaven and the new earth. Close your eyes if you have to. And picture, what is it looking like? Are there green grasses and meadows? I always picture a meadow and the sun is shining and then the grass is blowing and then there's all these people and then there's God, but I can't see him. But what are you picturing as you picture the new heaven and the new earth? Now, as I picture these things, I also picture us working together hand in hand and contributing to the greater good of all man. I do not picture us living like stay-at-home daughters. This is actually a new thing that I was just introduced to. I was scrolling through Instagram and somehow TikTok popped up. I'm really not on Instagram or TikTok that often. I'm not even on TikTok at all. But somehow it came up on my Instagram feed. And of course I clicked on it and it was a video about a stay-at-home daughter. Now I've heard of stay-at-home moms and I've heard of stay-at-home dads, but a stay-at-home daughter is essentially someone who lives off of their parents. And she lives a very lavish lifestyle. And obviously her parents have lots of money and she's in her 30s. She does not have a job and she travels and she gets plastic surgery and she gets her Botox whenever she wants and she eats this delicious food and then she just documents it on TikTok. And maybe some of you are saying gross, because when I first saw the video, I will not lie, I did say, gross, is this real? But then it made me start thinking about a lot of different things. And fortunately, I was preparing for this teaching, so it made me think of, oh my gosh, is that how I picture this new heaven and new earth? Like, is God going to give us everything that we want and just say, here you go, my daughter. Here you go, my son. And not have us work for anything? And honestly, I don't think that that's how it's going to be. And some of you may disagree, and that's fine. And I guess we'll find out when we get there. But I think good parents do make their children work for things. And I think that it's good because in work, there's something good that is produced within all of us. So we're going to talk about some of the good things that come with work and the good things that they produce, that work produces. And there's 4 that I want to go over. Work makes creation possible. The second is work is the birthplace of contribution. The third is work reinforces purpose and meaning. And then the 4th is work makes rest a whole lot sweeter. So the first point, work makes creation possible. So work allows us to live out and live into the image of God and create. We bear the image of God, and our loving big God decided to make us in his likeness, and he is a creator. And he imprinted us with this same desire to create. And in Genesis, when we read about God creating, he was at work. He was doing something. He worked as he created, creating landscapes and galaxies and creating DNA and our intricate nervous systems and creating complex sea creatures and systems of balance. He was working as he was creating. He created a universe where there is science logic and math logic that could be found and studied. And within all of these things that he created through his work, he created something beautiful. And as David says in Psalms 19:1, the heavens declare the glory of God, the skies proclaim the work of his hands. To create is to work. And when we create, we cannot escape the work. that it's attached to. Creating something takes form, obviously, in many ways, but it does require mental exertion, physical exertion, sometimes even emotional exertion. If you think about what you have been creating recently in your own lives, in your own homes, can you strip away work from the creation? Because when we create a home for ourselves, for our family, for our children, our minds and our bodies are at work. When we create a delicious meal, we're utilizing our minds and our bodies. When we create pieces of art, we're using our minds and our bodies. When the female body is creating life within the womb, her body is at work. To labor is to work. God's creation would not exist without work. And what we create would not exist without work. And so work is good because it allows us to create. My second point is that work is good because it allows us to contribute. So contribution is just the act of giving something to make something else happen. And work is required to do that. And what's interesting about contribution is that it's, I think, one of the human needs that we all have. We all desire to contribute in some way. That's within all of us. And we all want to feel like we are contributing because by contributing, it makes us feel like we belong to something. We get a sense that we're part of something that is just outside of ourselves. And humans like to feel like they're contributing on a relational level. We like to contribute our ideas and our feelings and our hopes and our dreams. We like to feel like we are contributing in our jobs, that what I am working towards is actually doing something, that I'm contributing something. We like to feel like we're contributing in church. And I am not just talking about contributing financially. We contribute, again, our minds, our talents, our skills, our gifts, our hands, and even our words. And our contribution is actually needed. And I think a great verse that points to this is taken from 1 Corinthians. And in this verse, Paul is talking about spiritual gifts and how each of the spiritual gifts is needed for the body of Christ to properly work and function. And in 1 Corinthians 12:12, I've kind of just taken a couple of verses between 12:12 to 12:19. So it says this: "For just as the body is one and has many members," so our physical body, "and all the members of the body, though many, are one body, so it is with Christ." Then in verse 14 it says, "Indeed, the body does not consist of one member, but many." Then in 18 it says, "But as it is, God arranged the members in the body, each one of them, as he chose. If all were a single member, where would the body be?" Now, throughout those scriptures, he's essentially saying, like, we are all made up differently, and we all have the ability to contribute by using these different spiritual gifts within the body of Christ. So in order for the church to work properly, we all need to be contributing for it to function properly. And I think that this scripture can also be applied to life. And when you think of the family even, in order for a family unit to work effectively, we all need to be contributing parts within our areas. So in my home, I like to tell my children that they all have to contribute. We are all members of the family, and I have this talk with them quite often. But I let them know we're all members of the family and we all need to contribute, because it's not fair for the entire workload, to fall just on one person. So when they start complaining about, I don't want to do the dishes and I don't want to sweep the floor, I just remind them, like, contributing is good because we are all members of this family unit and we all must contribute. Actually, there is a lot of research that has been done surrounding children specifically contributing to house tasks. And there was a Harvard study that was done, and it found that children who have to contribute to chores become more independent adults. So there you go. Put your kids to work. The study also found that completing chores give the kids a sense of accomplishment, and it makes them feel like they're a part of a team. So that was my little soapbox for chores. But essentially, this second point is that work is good because it allows us to contribute and to accomplish a goal with a team. My third point is work is good because it reinforces purpose and meaning. As I was preparing for this, I was reminded of a show that I started watching. I do not remember the series, and honestly, the acting was horrible, and it's probably not a show worth watching, but because it was in a specific genre, I just started watching a couple of episodes and I found it interesting. But anyways, it was about AI. So AI stands for artificial intelligence, and the series kind of highlighted how in the future, AI has become very prevalent and jobs have become less prevalent for humans because AI, they have taken over all of the jobs. And this has led to a lot of high schoolers and teenagers like dropping out of school because they're feeling like, well, what's the point? There is no point, because they are lacking motivation, because they're not going to be able to find work anyway. And so if they can't find work, then they can't find meaning. And so then what's the point? I find this interesting because oftentimes people and the world, they assume that our jobs and our professions create our meaning and our purpose in life. But our jobs are not the source of our purpose. You see, our jobs can fuel our purpose, and so can our work. So our jobs and profession and our work, they can fuel our purpose, but they are just not our purpose alone, because our meaning and our purpose first come from God. And trying to find meaning and purpose within our jobs will lead us to a purpose that cannot be maintained. It'll leave us kind of floundering. I was reminded of something that I heard a pastor once say, and he had said, if you were living in the 16th century and someone handed you an iPhone 15, I actually have no idea what the iPhone is at right now. I don't own one, but an iPhone, whatever. They gave this to you, and here you are in the 16th century, and they hand you this iPhone 16, and you're holding it, and they say, what's the purpose of this? And you look down at it, and you look at them, and you look down at it, and you look at them, and your mind is racing, and you have no idea. You have no idea what purpose it holds. The only way that you can find out the purpose is by asking the creator of the device, or by looking at the manual, the owner's manual, on what it's actually utilized for. You see, finding our purpose starts with asking the creator. And in Colossians 1, 1:16, it says, for everything, absolutely everything, above and below, visible and invisible, everything got started in him and finds its purpose in him. Our purpose is found within God. It's not found within the jobs that occupy our time. Now, I am not going to do an extensive dialogue on purpose, because that is just a whole series in and of itself. And for the sake of time, I'm just going to mention and capture truths that the Bible tells us about what our purpose is here. Our purpose as people living as God's creation. And so I'm just going to mention a couple. So in Genesis 1, we were given purpose by God giving us dominion and telling us to be fruitful. And not just in how many children we have, but the fruit that we're actually able to produce in our life and create, like the fruits of the Spirit, like being able to extend love and joy and kindness and gentleness and self-control and all the other ones found in Galatians 5:22. So a purpose of ours was dominion and to produce fruit. We can also find our purpose in glorifying God. Like Isaiah 43:7 says, it says, bring all who claim me as their God, for I have made them for my glory. It was I who created them. So we also glorify God. Our purpose is also to abide in him, as it says in John 15:5-8, to abide in him. Our purpose is also to go out and tell people the good news and to make disciples, like in Matthew 28:19. You see, he gave us purpose. We already have established purpose, but what our work does is it helps reinforce that purpose that we were already given. It doesn't just create it, because we were given us our purpose from God, but it helps reinforce it, and we're able to live out that purpose through the work that we do. And then my fourth point, my final point, is that work is good because it leads to rest. And rest is important, and it is good. Rest is a whole lot sweeter after working with our hands and working with our minds. I occasionally enjoy a very good HIIT cardio. So HIIT, HIIT, HIIT stands for high intensity interval training. And when you are doing HIIT, you have to go really hard for a certain length of time, and then you're able to rest. So let's say you're doing a HIIT cardio class, then it's like, okay, you got 30 seconds. 30 seconds, you need to give me a 10 out of 10. Go, 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 go. And you're doing it. A 10 out of 10, you're going hard for 30 seconds. And then, oh boy, when that 30 seconds is done, you would not believe how good rest feels. You see, rest is good. And rest is a whole lot sweeter when it comes. That stay-at-home daughter that I had mentioned earlier, I don't know if rest tastes as sweet as it does to those that are actually out there really working. Because oftentimes it takes the work to appreciate the rest. And rest is required for longevity. And not only did God rest on the seventh day, but he built our bodies to need rest and to crave rest. Our bodies weren't meant to just keep going and going and going like the Energizer Bunny. No, but our bodies were built to sleep. And within a 24-hour day span, you have to at least spend 8 to 10 hours actually sleeping to recharge and revitalize. Our bodies need sleep to survive. within our seasons of life and in our seasons just outside in nature. There are built-in times of rest. There is this time of growth, and then there's this time of renewal. Rest was so important. It was such an important principle that God modeled it for us. And then he invited us to do the same. So I can't mention the goodness of work without also mentioning the goodness of rest, because you need one with the other. And you can't have one without the other. They support one another. So with the goodness of work comes the goodness of rest. And so I leave you with this. As you go out into your upcoming week and you are using your hands and you're using your minds and you're using your bodies to work in all the different ways that you can work, in your job, in the yard, with the children, in your ministry, whatever it is, I just hope that you are able to see the good that work can cultivate. I pray that you see how your different types of work allow you to create, and they help you to contribute, and they reinforce your purpose, and they also call you to rest. I'm going to leave you with a verse, Psalms 90:17. It says, "Let the favor of the Lord our God be upon us, and establish the work of our hands upon us." Yes, establish the work of our hands.